everyone. Today we have a first look at the new Arrma Mojave Grom. This is a truck that I've been very excited for ever since they announced it, and local hobby shops have had it for about like a week now in stock. They've done the usual thing of shipping these out to physical stores first and then having online shops ship them out, which I think is a good little strategy to keep brick and mortar shops in business. So I don't really mind having to wait a little bit. So I know I'm getting mine out a little bit later than everyone else, but you know, better late than never. And I've just really been excited for this thing. So just taking a look around the box real quick, you'll see little details there. It does have the new metal, not the metal, it always has the metal gears, but I wonder if it mentions it on the box. It does not, but it does have the new V2 metal diffs. Yeah, they don't mention it here, but it has the new V2 metal diffs, which the Typhon and the Grom did not. You just have to buy those separately. It comes with the smart charger and the smart battery, which the battery works fine, but I'm not a big fan of the smart charger aspect. Comes in two colors, the red and the blue. You see I got the blue. I saw the red one at my local hobby shop, and the red one also looks pretty cool. I'm not usually a big fan of red, but this red color scheme actually looks really cool. And the other thing I thought was pretty cool was the release button for the body. It's also color matched. You can see the red one is red, and the blue and green one, it's green. So nice little detail. When you open the box, nice little flap here that says Mojave Grom, just like how the Grom did, the Granite did. I already opened it up, so it is right here, and you can see that suspension is pretty plush. And I've really been liking a lot of Horizon Hobbies recent releases. They've improved on a lot of things since I've got into RC. Main complaints with RTRs used to be shock setup was often terrible, and then the tires were unusable. These tires are granted pretty hard, but I think for the kind of driving you'll be doing with this, the kind of bashing driving, I think these tires will be perfectly fine. We'll have to see when we take it out. But the shock setup feels very nice. They are just the standard plastic shocks with preload clips, but they do feel very smooth. There is some air in there, but for an RTR, I think that's set up very smoothly. The paint scheme and the overall look of the body, I think, also looks fantastic, just like the other Grom series vehicles. You can see like the Granite has a molded front grille, and this time the Arrma badging is painted, which is cool. They've had a little bit of an issue with some of their most recent releases where they don't really put the stickers all the way down on some of the spots, so I'll probably go over those with the hair dryer to kind of get those final stickers to stick down a little bit better. But overall it does look pretty good. The green really pops, like the highlighter green yellow color really pops. I think it goes really well with this light blue and the white. I really love this paint scheme. I think if I were to paint this body myself, I probably would have gone with something similar to this. Maybe just omit the green and switch it out for pink. But the highlighter color kind of looks pretty cool too. You can see the inner cage is also color matched and has a interior in here with nice driver figures. It looks very nice, and it's nicely cut. You can see the cage even gets up to the roof, so that the roof is nicely reinforced as well. The roof and the back section is painted in matte black, which looks amazing. Again, very tough. I love this little venting area. I wish these were cut out for a little bit better airflow, especially since the windshield is cut out, but maybe that's something you can do on your own. There is some airflow that gets through the back. You can kind of see it back here, but most of the air is going to get captured here. But it does look pretty good. Nice little fire extinguisher details. very scale looking body. Bumper, nicely molded in the back as well. Nice skid plates front and rear, and then the front has a nice bumper with the little skid plate, and it's pretty flexible, so that's not really gonna break anytime soon. The wheels are these typical 12mm hex. Not 12mm, 7mm hex. Yeah, but it's not the nylock nuts that they usually use. The Groms use a serrated lock nut, which works perfectly fine. And the bottom has the signature Arrma don't just bash, blast. And the plastic feels very smooth and very nice. So, to take the body off, it's very, very simple. The main complaint I had with the granite Grom was the body was sometimes a little bit awkward to take off, but they made it much, much easier. You can even do it with one hand probably. It's these buttons on the side. You press it and you lift. I'm gonna try to do it with one hand to see if that's possible. There you go. So you can even do it with one hand technically. And you can see the inside of the body looks very nicely reinforced, lots of injection molded pieces, full inner fenders, which is pretty cool. Even a lot of crawlers don't come, like full 10 scale crawlers don't come with inner fenders all the time. So to have the mini version of the Mojave come with full inner fenders, that's very, very cool. It's gonna keep the main section of the chassis pretty dry. So that's my main complaint usually about getting the full fendered bodies instead of the monster truck or buggies is the tires will often kick up a lot of dirt into the body and then kick it up all over and cake the entire chassis in dirt, which gets a little bit annoying to clean sometimes, whereas it's a little less likely to happen with a monster truck or a buggy where the main chassis is more covered by the body and the wheels aren't directly flinging stuff into the body. So that's a really nice little touch. Very happy with that. And taking a look at the chassis, the body mounts are pre-built into here. And again, it's a extended chassis. I'll do a size comparison in a second, but extended chassis, unique chassis again. The Granite, the Typhon, and the Mojave all have unique chassis, but the transmission, the gearbox, and stuff like that, it's going to be all the same. Everything's going to be kind of cross-compatible for the most part. These do have shorter arms than the buggy from what I've seen. So it is new arms and a new chassis and new body mounts, but theoretically you should be able to convert your Granite or your Typhon into a Mojave, even though that would mean replacing most of the parts. But the major driveline components are the same. You can see because of the longer chassis, this one's also able to afford the fan like the Typhon, whereas the Granite did not have any room for that. The servo appears to be metal gear. The servo horn there, at least, is metal, and it sounds like metal. Brushed motor, again, with a heatsink. Personally, I feel like for the scale of the vehicle, this brushed motor does perfectly fine. I think it's an acceptable speed, especially with a more scale-looking vehicle like this compared to the buggy or the monster truck. I don't think you'll be wanting to go that incredibly fast because I doubt the suspension is going to be able to keep up with anything fast, like ridiculously fast, especially for scale speed. It has the new IC2 connector, which I was very disappointed to find out is not compatible with the old EC2 connector. Even though the IC3 is compatible with the EC3, these just aren't. You have to kind of cut and modify the actual housing to get them to fit, which is a little bit annoying, but it is what it is. Since Horizon pretty much owns this the hobby now, they're doing their own proprietary connectors and chargers, just like how Traxxas is doing it, which is a little bit unfortunate, but you know, sometimes that is what it is with all these like big corporations. Putting the body on is also pretty simple. just like that, and it's really on there. It's a really nice system. I really love these things. Taking a closer look again, a little bit more. I'm also kind of learning about some of this as I'm looking at it. Bumper, you can see nice little impact bumper. None of the links are adjustable, which is perfectly fine on a basher like this. The shocks have plastic caps or fully plastic construction, but again, I'm pretty happy with the shocks. Other stuff that it comes with, real quick. It does come with a battery for the car and the controller. This is a transmitter. Same one as a lot of their lower end RTRs. Pretty happy with that controller. Same 1400 milliamp hour, 2S LiPo, 30C. It's a decent battery. Like I said, it has a nice runtime. The charging situation is just a little bit annoying if you don't have a smart charger. The smart charger they do include a little USB attachment on there now too for your little charging cable, which is nice. Extra preload clips if you want to adjust that, and then your typical kind of cool Arrma tool. It's pretty cool the kind of tool Arrma gives you instead of the typical Tamiya like wheel or like nut wrench and stuff. A little information card with a little QR code in the back, and then your standard manual, which unlike a lot of manuals, this has the RTR instructions in it in multiple languages, but they do also include a technical pack with like some of the build instructions and the exploded view. So that's always nice to have. I typically keep these around just in case. One thing I did want to check out real quick is how they do the body mount with the shock, not the body mount, the shock tower. Because previously, the shock tower was integrated into the diff case. So if you broke it, you would have to replace the diff case, which is also in turn integrated into the chassis. So I'm going to tear into that for a second just to kind of investigate, and I'll get back to you guys. So it does appear, seeing the exploded view here in the parts breakdown, the shock towers are still integrated into the main chassis. Same with the rear of the diff case, which is a little bit unfortunate, a little bit disappointing, but I don't expect you to really break those too often. So especially with a more protected body like this. So hopefully that never has to be replaced. Though even if it does have to be replaced, it's not that big of a deal, as I experienced with the Granite Grom. Arrma vehicles are always pretty nice to work on, so that's good. It's just kind of annoying you're not able to upgrade that part or just replace a single small part instead of having to replace the entire chassis. But with that said, let's do a quick size comparison. So I'm gonna do a quick little size comparison with some common RCs currently. Here's the original Granite Grom, and you can see the Mojave, just like the 10 scale counterpart, is much larger than the Granite. It's not as wide, but the body is significantly bigger. It's not as wide, but it is certainly much longer than the Granite. You can see the difference in the wheelbase there. The shock setup also seems a little bit more plush on here, maybe because it's a little bit heavier than the Granite is, which also makes sense. The wheel sizes are also significantly different. You can see the monster truck wheels versus the short course truck, desert truck wheels. And honestly, the Granite has much softer tires than the Mojave, so we'll see how those do. They are the same tread pattern, so we'll have to see how that does. But moving that aside, another Horizon Hobby product that's pretty common, the Mini B, which is a 16th scale, I think, technically. 18th or 16th scale You can see the wheelbase is pretty similar. The Mojave is still slightly longer than the Mini B, but you can see the size difference there. Pretty similar in width. And then the Mini T, again, a lot of these other cars have it beat on width, but you can see Mini T is also much shorter. The larger short course desert truck kind of body also makes the vehicle look much larger than compared to some of its counterparts, 18 scale counterparts. We'll compare it to a couple other Horizon Hobby products, and then we'll compare it to some non-Horizon Hobby products. Here is the Mini LMT. Pretty comparable, I think. Though, even though they call this an 18 scale vehicle and they call this an 18 scale vehicle, realistically, if they were the same scale, this should be significantly bigger than this. But I think they're just going by like RC standards. And maybe mostly like the main body technically is an 18 scale. If it was like a normal truck, not a monster truck. But pretty similar size, again, pretty similar footprint. And then the 16th scale retro kind of desert truck, stadium truck kind of thing. There's the Mini JRXT. The wheelbase on these are actually the same or very similar. You can see here. The body length is also pretty similar. And the width of the bodies are kind of similar. The Mojave is slightly bigger because of the wider fenders, but the main part of the body seems like pretty comparable. So with this Mojave body on it, maybe this should be considered more of a 16 scale vehicle than an 18 scale. It is quite large, but so is the regular Mojave and short course truck, RC short course trucks in general. Comparing to some other 18 scale vehicles, here we have a Traxxas TRX4M Defender, and you can see the Defender looks tiny compared to the Mojave. So again, I think 16 scale might be a little bit more appropriate for this car. They don't even actually technically call out a scale for this, they just call it small scale. Wait, where'd it go? Small scale four-wheel drive electric desert truck. So if they were to assign a size to it, I would consider it more of a 16 scale. Here's another 18 scale vehicle, FMS. This I think also is kind of inaccurate as 18 scale. I think this is pretty close to a 16 scale as well, but they call it a 18 scale vehicle. Wheelbase is about the same. And then here it is next to a standard 12.3 inch wheelbase 10 scale crawler. You can see it is significantly smaller. The wheelbase obviously is also going to be smaller, but that's just kind of a size comparison. And then the closest thing I'll have to a size comparison to a 10 scale short course truck or an 8 scale buggy is my 8 scale Red Cat landslide buggy conversion. This is a short course body, so you can kind of get a feel from that. I believe the 8 scale Mojave is about this big as well, so you can kind of get an idea of how much smaller this is to your standard 8 scale Mojave. Certainly much smaller than the 7 scale Mojave. But with that all said, it looks fantastic, it feels fantastic, and if it drives and handles anything like the Granite Grom, I'll be very, very happy. I expect it to drive pretty similar to it, just with a little bit more stability since it is a much longer wheelbase. But instead of speculating on how it drives, let's actually take it outside and see how it drives. So I have a nice little variation of terrain here. Got some sidewalk, got some grass. It surprisingly goes through the grass pretty well. Some like rough dirt. Yeah, that suspension's working fantastic. That looks amazing. Ooh. Getting its first scratches in already. The center of gravity seems pretty low as well, which is nice, even with the heavier body. It jumps pretty nicely. It probably would jump better if the ramp didn't move around and if I could aim it straight. Ooh. But yeah, let's get it on a wider area. And see how this thing does. So the tires are pretty hard as I expected, but it does make it a little bit more fun to drive. There's this nice little body lean going on too. The overall speed and acceleration of the truck is very satisfactory. It's very fun to drive. And it looks fantastic too, I keep saying that. So it finally did get stuck in this really, really rough stuff. I might move the ramp. A little dusty patch. Handles beautifully through here as well. It will understeer a little bit, but if you punch the throttle, it will kick out that rear end. And of course, I don't mind getting something like this dirty because it's so small. I can just stick it in my bathtub to give it a little bit of a wash. Even how the dirt kind of sprays onto the body looks very realistic, which is really cool. So that was a very fun run. Now the moment of truth to see how much dirt managed to get in here. You can see it's super dusty, and for a desert truck it just has to have dirt on it. It looks even cooler now with the dirt on it. Taking that body off, you can see it's caked in dirt and dust, but that battery, most of the main section of the chassis is pretty clean. There's some dust in there because this was very fine dust. You can see that fan's blowing away nicely, but most of it stayed pretty clean. So if it was like thicker stuff like mud or something like that, I'm sure it will keep it clean. But for some final thought, it's dripping dust everywhere now. That was very fine stuff. That was very fun to drive. I think the most comparable models to this in like a name brand sense would be the Traxxas Slash 1/16 scale and the Trax 1/18 scale. What are they calling it now? Pre-runner, desert truck, whatever they're calling that thing now. Those are the most comparable ones, both made by Traxxas, of course. And I think this is a better choice than both of them. The price of this comes in at $150 retail street price, and then depending on your hobby shop, like my local hobby shop has it for $140 or $145, which is a really attractive price point for this, especially considering the 16 scale Slash, I believe, goes for like $180 or almost $200, maybe $250. I don't quite remember, but it is significantly more expensive than this. And then the Trax Rally is about similar price to this, maybe a little bit cheaper, but I think this is a better vehicle than both of those. The Slash is going to have the durability, but it's really top heavy, being based on a e-Revo, mini e-Revo, motors up top, and it's not very scale as this. And then the Pre-Runner, the Trax, doesn't look as good as this one, and it's not going to be nearly as durable as this or fast as this. The motor in this is much larger than the Trax. It's smaller than the Slash, but the speed of them are pretty similar, and this is way more stable than both of those cars and drives much nicer. It has that scale aspect while also driving very well. So overall, I think this is a very nice release. Even my first impressions, I'm very impressed. I will have to get more testing on it and maybe even do like a full review on it, because this just, I think it's a pretty cool little truck. So if you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And as always, I hope everyone has a great day and have fun with RC.